Uh, Welcome, everybody. Like to do a roll call, and just for if those members of the master planning group or the Crow board, can please identify themselves. Katie,
Katie Schultman.
Joe Zalek,
Catherine Salinas.
Joanna Abby Newman.
right?
True.
Yeah.
Robert Flam. Eric Overgaard.
Very good. Okay. We can verify that the meeting was properly noticed, and now we will open it up for owners' comments. If there are any owners here who'd like to bring up a topic for 3 minutes, we'll open the floor up. Okay. If any owners have comments along the way, they could raise their hand, and depending upon the topic, we'll try to ensure that anybody has an opportunity to speak. Okay, adopt the agenda. Is that something that we could adopt?
Just a move to adopt the agenda.
Move to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Briefly interrupt.
Yes.
You missed our last meeting, so if you want to do just a brief
Yes.
introduction,
Catherine, yeah.
and then we can just go around the room and introduce ourselves as
Sure.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Catherine Salinas. I am an architect and I've been in the industry for about 20 years. I've been living in Celebration for 8 years. Prior to this, I was in New York City.
Welcome. And so of the master planning group members, Joanna, Mark, and I, and still no Alec, have been part of the original master planning group. And then Robert and yourself were joined this year. And we're excited because, we did this very large master plan. And now that we're a couple of years into it, we completed 2 of the projects on it, and we're starting our 3rd project. And today we'll talk about the other projects, but at least I'm excited, contributions of all the people here and many, many others, that we finally have a little bit of momentum in terms of doing some long-term strategic projects in addition to the normal day-to-day operations of this community. Katie.
Oh, I'm Katie Schultman, and I'm the board liaison for master plan, along with
Me, Eric.
Okay. All right. All right. Good. All right. So discussion
Hey,
items.
Joe, this is Alex. I'm on the phone too.
Hey, Alec, there you are, 734. Great, welcome. And congratulations. So can you just give
Yeah,
us a
big deal.
recap? So give us a recap of where we are with the championship.
Yeah. So you're talking about Little League?
Little League. No, just
Sorry.
what happened last night. You said, I just want to
Yeah.
know, just so you could, whatever happened,
So-
somebody won, you won.
So
Somebody
we
lost.
have 3 teams. We have 3 teams competing in the district playoff. Our 12U, our 10U baseball, and our 10U softball. Our 12U got eliminated last night. Our 10U is playing tonight for the championship, and our 10U softball are district champions. We
Wow.
started 2 years ago our softball program with 6 girls, and now we're district champions. So we are super excited.
Wow.
Congrats.
That's great news. Okay, because I know, baseball fields is a topic that we'll talk about, but that's given our lack of infrastructure, that's a great result. So congratulations to you and everybody involved. Okay, first topic is Lauren had sent out the resolution, which is an annual kind of a performance plan for this group. And hopefully you've all had a chance to read it. If you haven't, I would draw your attention to the second page. Not that the first page is not important, but it's more generic. The second page under section C really talks about what we our goal in this group. And I'll just read 2 or 3 key sections. Make recommendations to the board to pursue the goals and actions set forth in our 2024 master plan. Have work groups for all the projects. Prepare the RFP for the sports courts. and Lauren, I'll ask a little bit, or Katie or Eric. So I'm happy, a little surprised that on the next one. So propose a phased development timeline for Lot D, including community center and any space required maintenance. Maintenance we've talked about, we understand that. Lot D is our last remaining piece of, not our last remaining. Is our last remaining? Probably is.
No, you have Lot E, but it's.
Yeah, but it's so, community center, et cetera. So I got that. Was there much discussion? Adding, I'm just surprised that, because Lot D was something keeps kind of getting pushed off, and to pull it in for us, I think it's great.
Go ahead, Katie.
Well, I was just, we don't want it to get lost,
Yeah.
in the conversation. So I'm not looking to move forward on anything, but start doing like a timeline similar to like how we did with town hall, kind of like, and that can be based on, different research and finances and projections and.
Yeah, and I think that's important. For those of you who aren't familiar, Lot D is up. It's after, it's on the civic corridor, right? You got the library, and you work your way back, and Lot D is at the,
Where
basically.
they do the egg hunt.
Between CDD building
And the
and.
CCD.
Yes, right. So it's kind of almost.
Grass parking area.
Yes, it's like grass park area. And so that is, as I said, a very valuable piece of real estate for us because as we looked at our place. And I think, Katie, that's a good point because we don't have to implement anything at any given time. But what would be, because Mark and a lot of other people as part of the strategic plan, we wrote 3 or 4 pages, and Mark spent probably 100 hours doing diagrams and architectural plans. But okay, now let's put a little bit more meat on that. And say, okay, this is what it could be. And the price range could be from X to Y, and the time frame could be an X to Y. And then you can look at it and say, okay, let's assume we're going to put a shovel in the ground in 2028. Okay. How would we get the financing for it, and what would we have to do? Right. At least it allows you to do that, because right now you say, well, I don't know what's that mean, put a shovel in the ground. Well, it means you need to.
And according to the survey,
Yeah.
community center was ranked, I think, was it number one?
Number one.
Yeah.
And it was number one, and it's always been number
Yeah.
one, because now we have this place here. This is our community center, and it's also our offices, and it's also our meeting space, and it's also, right. But we talked about it. And the only thing I would add to that discussion, if it's okay, when we talk about Lot D, we also did talk about somewhere else in the community near Heritage Hall or near Lakeside, there could be other, I don't know, the heart, mind, soul thing. That's like a PTSD. But there are some other places where we could do satellite, not replacement, but satellite, and you could say, you know what, we can't afford to do satellites. We're just going to do one. We're going to put our money in one, or we could do a satellite approach. And so I think that's worthy of discussion, because there's different approaches with different financial implications.
We talked about those in the master plan. There's one to put single room thing similar to Heritage Hall, just that meeting room and a couple bathrooms in 3 of the villages anyway.
Yeah.
And then that, of course, is one piece. The other piece is a little bit bigger, but just expanding services of another workout place and other stuff. Possibility of more of a teen center at Lakeside, some other community space there, but more meeting room type things. But for a true activity place with classes, workout space, indoor basketball, etc. facilities, that's a different animal, which is Lot D. That project, I think we all know, is really, really expensive. So is that something that is done joint with CCDD, or if it's not, and trying to put that together, because it would clearly take financing some time to get it done.
And Joe, I think just highlighting the piece that is important from a board perspective is the phased development timeline.
Yes.
it's no secret that we have a short-term need for a maintenance solve.
Right, yeah.
What we don't want to have happen is for us to say,
The maintenance should.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to take up the whole thing with a maintenance facility,
And
and then we're stuck.
Right, so it's gotta be part of that plan.
So it's figuring out, okay, because the cost of necessarily doing a shed is going to be less expensive than doing a community center, but we need to make sure that we're considering it in the concept of how does this look as a phased development timeline with that, not only with funding, but then obviously there's things like, okay, if we're doing this part, does it make sense to do some level of site work or different
Yes.
things? I don't know.
Excellent.
But looking at it, because what I think we will rapidly start to run into the situation of that we're already starting to see is we may need to accelerate a maintenance facility need before we're even able to afford to do the community center portion of this. But we want master planning to be involved in that, to know that like, hey, there is a vision here so that we can try to make it as coordinated as possible.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. If you go one more trouble, you have the bubbles at the bottom. So just as a reminder for everybody, and then we'll move on, right? That this facility, right? I mean, we're I forget how many people are we now? 13,000 people? 13,000 people. And we have, as far as gym facilities, are we back up to 4 working treadmills? We were at 3 for a while. We have 3 or 4 treadmills. I'm exaggerating, but well, not really. There's only 4 treadmills. Okay.
Very small.
Very, very small,
Yeah.
right? That meeting rooms, I mean, hopefully now we won't hear the jujitsu guys next door. Where do they
They're
play?
staying at CCFC.
But we don't have meeting rooms. We don't have, if there wants to be a pinochle club, we don't have anything performances. Someone wants to get married here in town. We just don't have classrooms. The Scottish, who are the ladies who dance in the summer.
Irish dance.
Irish dance. We should, for a town this size, right? With the cumulative value of the real estate last I looked was, I don't know, $2.5 billion. If you add up the value of the homes, to have just a building. We can make it, doesn't have to be fancy, but we should have one building where everybody can go and do stuff. This is as close as we have. Anyway, we know the need. It's complicated because of space and money, but that the community's asked for it, so
Mhm.
we have to.
Yeah, and even if it's like 2030, it is what it
Yeah,
is.
right, and then,
Let them know though that it's something that's being.
Doesn't our phase 2 go out to
yeah,
2030?
yeah, and this was in phase 2. It's there, but the point is, it's in phase 2. So every time we have a meeting, we haven't talked about it because it's phase 2. Okay, and phase, 2 years from now, we still won't be talking about it because it's still in phase 1, and that's why I think it was great for it to be added here so that we can start to at least talk about it and have the discussion, especially with real estate.
Yeah, because I think just Trent, and I'll speak independently at this point in time. I see the maintenance facility coming up this year, that we start to try to figure out what do we do, and then there's funding implications that we need to figure out. That I know the maintenance facility isn't sexy, but it's important, and we have a need for that. So, but once again, it comes down to that component of, even if the rest of the lot's not going to be developed out for, a period of time, that's fine, but we at least have a vision for it.
Yep. Okay.
A couple of things real quick with it. If you could go back to showing the plan. Back then, Lot B did not exist the way it currently does, so I had just made space for a basketball court.
Oh, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna ask.
So that could easily be a position, but we need to program what we
Yes.
mean by maintenance shed and what that is, and then correspondingly, I'd have to figure out.
Right.
You're reading my mind, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it can go right there where the
Go
right
right
thing is and back it up as much as
Right,
possible.
okay. And then this,
So there's a possibility to definitely do that. But we need to
Hey,
Yeah.
Joe,
with the
Yes.
team about what that is.
because we get implications from, not only that, but
That's good.
parking for the maintenance, and you don't want to impact that. Yes, Alec.
I don't know if we've thought about it. I know that, like, obviously we all know land is valuable, and making sure that that's got the return that we're looking for. Have we ever considered, because the maintenance bay or the maintenance building is coming upon us, something totally offsite? Like, I know we're looking at Island Village and what's up there, but is there a cheaper property a couple miles away. Could we make something like that work? To not take valuable land for an amenity?
We looked, this is going back to when I was on the board, the previous round. That was before master planning too. We looked at actually the space out where the old Publix facility is on 192, which is still empty. And the cost, this is going back a while, it wasn't even affordable back then for us to be able to do that. It was more cost effective for us to actually try to enter into some sort of an agreement with like the self-storage places to be able to do that there in the community. It's something that I think that we can explore. I think the challenge is it's not just a parking situation. It also becomes a situation for storage for like actual maintenance supplies as well. So things like, toilet parts and, paint and all that.
Work space too.
And working space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we really need to put together a program for
Yeah.
it. Then we can right size it, figure out where it ought to go.
Yeah.
And,
That's a good
Okay.
point, Alec. I think nothing should be off the table, in my opinion.
and is there any random spots on?
And we're gonna come back to this because it's an agenda item. And I want to just, if it's okay, finish up on this, on our performance plan for the year. So we're talking about Lot D, updates, update the board, advise the board, work with finance to ensure that we've got both short-term and long-term funding, the resources of our strategic plan and any other documents. We have 7 members of the committee, 2 liaisons. And so if there are no other questions, this is just something you should hold on to, and in case you're wondering, what's our mission? Because sometimes last year, I know we wanted to move out of our mission and do some other things, and maybe that's good, maybe it's not. But this is definitely what we need to do over the next year.
I'll just add that the goals or the resolution is updated by the board every year.
Yeah.
And so the board was the one that
Yeah.
updated the goals and objectives of that and
Thank you. Yep.
this year.
And that's Donna Kitty. And
The maintenance facility on the agenda here.
I'm sorry,
I had a question with the maintenance facility. Can I ask that now or do you have it on the agenda?
it's on the, it's gonna be on the agenda.
Other projects?
Other projects, yeah. Okay, all right, fine. With that, 2, the discussion is the person here, Lauren?
He is not.
He is not here, so we are going to go right past. If he comes, we'll talk about the cameras and whatever that means. Okay, next is an update as to where we are with the sports courts. I know, Lauren, you sent out just an update that from a permitting perspective,
On the civil permitting.
of a civil permitting, that's, as I read that, just kind of progressing along.
Yep, we're moving through at
Okay,
expected pace.
okay,
Very slow.
just slow, but we knew that, which is why we submitted it, and it will, hopefully it will catch up with us, or we'll catch up with that. The to-do that I specifically had, that I tried to do on my phone the last 3 weeks when I was on vacation, and I'm almost done with the draft for the RFP. Jacob, I'm leaving town unfortunately again Friday morning for a few days, but I'd like to get time with you Wednesday morning, and we'll finish up a draft. We'll get it to Mark and Catherine, if you'd like to see it, given your engineering backgrounds, so that we'll have a draft by the end of next week for general circulation. And end of next week is fine. And then you all can put the right insurance writers, whatever massage dates. Then we'll come to the workshop at the board in early July. And then we will issue the RFP hopefully by end of July. Month from now. Okay, ish.
Yeah, just be aware that the July workshop's gonna be a long meeting. Just for your knowledge.
Yeah.
'Cause I know
Well,
you like to-
we've updated the board a couple times on it.
I won't be here, so it should be shorter.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, okay.
They're doing interviews with finalist law firms and they've got a couple other discussion items that
Well,
are
just-
on,
just-
like.
Put us on the first and we'll
and
get it out.
Budget talks, so.
Yeah, okay. Well, just, again, we're not asking for to spend any money. All we're doing is saying, which is what we had the conversation back
Yeah.
in January, said, until we know how much it is, you
We don't know what to do.
know,
No.
we know if its sign looks great, right? We know. Just look to pull it out, right? We know, right? We're gonna have 22 courts, right? And 15, anyway, we know basketball, we're gonna have volleyball, we're gonna have pickleball, cornhole, etc. We know that layout. And so the only thing we don't know is the cost. And it could be a lot more than we think, a little bit more, I think, or less. And then once we get the cost, we can decide to proceed or somehow shrink it a little bit, or delay it. But every time we delay it, the costs keep going up. So, but anyway, we'll have that discussion, but we can't have that discussion, which is an October discussion until we get the RFP out and talk to some vendors.
And we have a list of vendors provided by JVB and by the civil engineering firm, KPMF. But
Okay.
I know you and Alec were talking about possibly recommending firms as well.
Yeah. How many firms do you have
I think
on that
we have
list?
three or four, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to get a little more.
Yeah,
Alec and Mark.
Yeah, I can.
or if
that's
anybody on
workers,
the committee
just-
has any firms that they would recommend for
Right.
that work.
Construction companies.
Because I mean,
The contract-
this is not a complicated project, right?
It's not, but is. I still want a GC over it, so do not go
Yes.
to just courts people, because that's
No.
not what we need.
No, we need a GC. we know
General
that.
contractor, construction manager, oversee the whole thing and pull
Yeah.
together all the pieces. Obviously send it to Dan Angelis again.
Yeah, we're gonna include you.
They'd be more aggressive with pricing. But I can suggest at least two more, I think,
Okay, good,
depending on what you already have.
excellent.
Trust JBB on their recommendations.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good experience. JBB, by the way, for those who aren't familiar, they're the architects in Tampa that drew up the plans for us. And did a nice job with Mark helping. Okay. Any other questions on multi-function sports courts? Okay, so other projects, the list I had for other projects is maintenance shed, baseball, like if you have any updates that you want to give us. And then there's a finance update that I'll give that Jim gave me some notes on. And then the only other projects that are on hold, but we'll just mention them, or that, any updates to our parks enhancements / lakeside playground. Let's start with maintenance. So the maintenance shed, we already had a somewhat of a discussion on it. Just as a reminder, this group did some work with Bob and Andrew, right? Looking at what we have, which we know is not adequate, and a little bit as to what we need, but they kind of kept shying away from that. What we have, what we need, but we know what we have is not satisfactory, and we know probably, most likely, the space where it's at is not a long-term solution. So that's what we can conclude. What we have it's not gonna. It may last 2 years. Okay, it may last whatever, but it's not we need a solution, and we know to get a solution and implement it probably takes a year or two anyway. So we really need to try to, in this calendar year, come up with a solution. I would argue once we have that solution, sorry, I don't mean this harshly, but we have to balance that against the other financial demands, right, that we have, right? And you say, well, no, this is more important than sports court. I don't. That's a good discussion to have, right? It's important, but how important is it? Okay, so it's it's more important than a lakeside park. I think those are good discussions for you all to have, right? Because we give a recommendation, and then that's you're as the elected officials, you'll make those trade-offs. We'll give you a recommendation though, I think, from the priority perspective, but we don't know enough. And I think Alec raised a good point. For those of you who aren't familiar, when we did the master plan, we walked to, gosh, I don't know, was it 70 different places? There was a list of 70 places you could walk to around town. That's either a park or a field or a 70.
There's 90 parks, active
90.
and active.
So
parks.
not 90 places went in golf carts. There's 90 places. And of those, there's very few that have green grass and no use, right? There's just not a lot. And even some of the ones we had, we quote lost, right? Which was behind the K8, right? Now, it wasn't ours to lose, but we lost it anyway, right? So we just took up lot B, or the other one, so we lost that. So we're shrinking. So looking at other alternatives, is part of that process. And again, there's no easy ones, but that's all trade-offs. So I know there was a question you wanted to ask about.
Basically, if you look out to the scope of the CD, Crow properties, and look at CDD as well, because there's a lot. I know there.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, look at, if you go out by where the new Publix is by Future Way, CD sold a property that was basically a loop that goes out to back to Celebration Boulevard. They sold that property. It was a very nominal amount. They sold it to the developer. But behind that, there's still additional CDD property. There's also additional property behind the K-8 school at Island Village, which is CDD property and development. So there's quite a few properties. So I haven't looked at the maps recently, but I think there's quite a few properties that could be considered at least for discussion rather than eating to something more Crow property. The second thing is we already had the pickleball courts designed and also permitted for Lot D. Now, if you're thinking about putting the maintenance facility on Lot D, why not put the maintenance facility on Lot B and go with a permitted design plan that we already had in place? It could save the money, a lot of money. Or rather than, because you haven't even started the permitting process for the Lot B activity.
It's a totally different facility.
Yeah.
The whole reason why I got here is so that we're not putting it on Lot D to keep that open because it's a much bigger property.
Yeah, but you just considered it for the maintenance facility. So the point is you're going to consider
the
it.
maintenance facility.
We'll
would be
get
very
a
small.
smidgen of it if it'll.
What's the size of the maintenance facility?
That's why I said we need to program it. We need
Lot
to.
B is roughly 300 by 100.
I know exactly what it is. So,
All right. We've looked at all that alternatives and this group has made a recommendation that on lot B, we're going to put 22 courts, some of which will be pickleball, some of which will be other sports.
but there is, if I could just explain, there is a bunch of places to your exact point of other places to put things. One, we need to understand the program of what a building needs to be with workshops and that such thing. The other thing is storage. So for instance, where the existing shed is down towards Artisan, that could just become storage and nothing else because there's no bathrooms, there's no way heck we're going to be able to have
Yeah, and
that.
if that becomes storage, then we could give up the storage units that we currently rent.
Yes.
And you might be able to add to that a little bit to at least make it storage.
So it doesn't have to be
Make that-
one facility. It could
Yeah,
be.
we can add a little bit to it without parking and anything else done to it. And then we won't have the 5 million trucks out front. So that means where's workshop space, to his point, maybe it's a divide and conquer because the first thing I mentioned last time we talked about this was the land that's behind the K through 5 in Island Village. Where right now there's a pile of stuff already that CCDD has back there, back behind the bicycle and the tree. That there is definitely land there to put it on. I think we get a structure in between all gas lines that are going through. The only difficulty with that property is there's gas lines with easements that there's, I think more than one actually that crosses it. So we gotta get between those things. But I think there's space there to put something there, 100%. That could take care of Island Village, storage, maybe workshop on that end, a little bit of parking. It's doable, yeah. Lot D, I'm hoping could be something smaller, tighter. It's really just workshops, bathrooms on the corridor. The other thing I mentioned was, is there any way we could do anything to Lot F, but that's probably not doable without it costing a lot. as a use there. There
There's
is.
lot F is order.
The-
Lot E.
Lot
Lot
E,
E, that's what I meant, yeah.
behind the CCFP.
Yeah, behind the fields there, but is there, if you finally built something, the road going in, whatever. That's gonna end up too expensive to do that, but I think what we need to do is understand what the needs are, figure out what size of thing that is, and then go see where that fits. The other question is there any random property? For instance, what you mentioned with Publix or other things, is there anything along the boulevard that's a piece left? That's not a huge lot that somebody's still trying to sell.
Yeah,
Just like a huge vacant
the two
lot.
huge vacant lots, which are
Yeah.
very expensive.
And I wonder if there's any parcels of anything else.
Well,
that's
there's
sold.
that, where they were gonna put that Wawa right on World
Yeah,
Drive,
there's
there's
that.
that
That's-
parcel behind.
Those are gonna be
Yeah, that's-
expensive.
yeah.
But no, there's no other little
No.
chunks, because we looked at
What's
that
next to
in
the,
MPAC and the Celebration Hall.
yeah, I was curious, like next to the, is the building or anything
Parking.
down there?
Underneath the
And
power
West
line.
Duke over there. And
Anyway, so
Okay,
if I could
anyway.
just
and
pause
the
this.
golf
So-
course owns that parcel too, where they keep their maintenance facilities.
Gotcha.
So
Okay, got it.
as far as subcommittees go, on maintenance shed, at the last meeting, Jim, who's not here, had volunteered to be on that committee. So if there's anybody else, who's on the master plan group who would like to be on the maintenance committee, now's the time to raise your hand.
Obviously,
Okay.
I would like to
Okay,
obviously
so-
help
so-
program it.
Jim's gonna have the lead on
Move
that.
it
So,
on.
so the first thing, right, is gathering requirements. Yes. Space available, budgets, timeframes, all the standard things you would do in a project plan. So we'll take that, Jim, I'll let him know he's coming back in tonight from, his cruise. Just,
We'll set up a meeting with him and Luis.
Can we put some structure around that meeting though? Because I think the,
So we have the report that Bob and Andrew put
Yes.
together. We have this full site survey that basically says you really can't do much more on this lot than already
Yeah.
exists. And then we can say, okay, knowing what we know based on these two things, kind of what space is available in Celebration and what is a programming need from a facilities
okay,
perspective.
the requirements.
Yes.
I haven't seen the requirements and then, we can balance that versus what's affordable and other projects and what's available.
and I think we need to consider it in the mindset of Island Village being completely built out.
Yep.
So, under.
Yes, yeah. That there's,
100%,
that
yeah.
there's, so
That's why I think there should be a satellite out there.
Right.
Somebody really should have made the builder do it.
made the builder.
Never
give-
mind that.
We do have one. It's a
Yeah, it has a
room closet, I think.
one-car
Yeah.
Garage next to the mail kiosk.
Yes,
in
next to the mail
phase four.
kiosk.
That's a criminal one.
That's correct, right. Should have-
Yeah.
It's better, yeah. We started with nothing, so we'll take that. Yeah.
Okay,
Anyway,
all right.
that's-
All right, we're gonna conclude on that. Let's over to baseball. Alec, do you have any updates, any conversations? Alec, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe, what was the question?
Yeah, just a topic on baseball, the fields, updates with the school district. Anything new to talk about?
No new updates, but what I want to sign up for, and I can't see Catherine's face, but I'd like to sign the two of us up to present next meeting with some proposals, and we'll have had the conversations with the right people at that point.
Excellent. Okay, so, okay, good. So we'll have Jim give us an update on maintenance sheds, something more formal than just like this casual conversation we're having. And we'll do the same thing for baseball, for those two for our July meeting. Okay. Got it. So if we look at phase one, the other projects that we had talked about, mostly centered around park enhancements. And the issue, I take out, for those of you that Jim sent out, I got my glasses on and I got rid of half the column so I can still barely read it. But if I'm reading this correctly, if we look at the capital fund as at the end of May, had $1.3 million in it. For those of you who are new, there's all sorts of funds. we care about lots of funds, but we really care about the capital fund. That's the assessment that's done on new home sales and other various sources,
Yeah.
transfers that come in and out. Supposed to really just come in, doesn't go out. That fund strategic projects. So that money in that capital fund was used for the splash pad, and it was used for the reconstruction, which renovation of this building. So that fund right now has $1.3 million. We've got to still pay off some bills relating to 851. I don't know how much that is, but there are some. When we look at the projection for that fund, because that's right now our gate. I mean, if we had more money there, we want to have a discussion on the maintenance shed. We'd say, go buy the Arby's and just, use Arby's. Right? Like you got the parking in the building, right?
It's actually a good
Because he's
idea.
gonna sit there. 3 years from now, when it's sitting there empty, the guy maybe, I can't afford Applebee's, too big. But-
It's about $500,000.
$500,000, yeah, and so I see some of that's factored in here. So anyway, when that's all factored in, with Jim's projection working with the trusted source of Lauren's team, the projection right now, again, for those of you who are new or those of you who are old like me, choose my words a little carefully here. There's a couple things that have new home sales. New home sales are going, according to Jim, according to our forecast, are right more or less on target. Okay, so that's good. Let's just assume that will continue. If it doesn't, we slow things down. But the projection assumes kind of continue with the forecast. The projects that we're doing, such as the town hall renovation and the splash pad, kind of came in where we thought. So there's no surprises on the revenue or the expense so far. The variable is on the operating shortfall, bad words, but money gets moved around between accounts to fund day-to-day operations because we've got to make payroll and do other things. So that's a variable. That's these people at this end of the table, are paid to go manage that. Okay, and we have to deal with the consequences of it, positive or negative. But putting all that aside right now, what Jim's forecast says is at the end of the year, assuming the payments, some loans get repaid, etc., would be a balance of $1.6 million, and spending of that $694,000 on the sports courts. In other words, that says we would award the sports courts and start spending money in the fourth quarter. I don't think that's going to happen. And the reason is, at least from my perspective, is once we start it, we want to make sure we have enough money to finish it. So while we don't need this 600,000, we may need $1.2 million next year. 1.2 plus point. When you come up with 1.8, I just came up with it in my head. So you have to make sure you have 1.8 million. Now we'll know come September what that number is, but it's not how much money is available this year. And by the way, there's other things that are come into factor, such as maintenance sheds and whatever, that will all want that same money, right? Or projects that we're not aware of that will come up, as far as capital funding, such as Lakeside swings and things. So, but anyway, the bottom line is, from a financial perspective, things are going as we thought. We need to go out and get the RFPs completed so that we can see what our next major projects are going to cost, so we can see how that will fit into the affordability within the capital budget.
For this group's knowledge, at the board's request, Ray is updating his year-end projection
Okay,
for the June board meeting. So that'll be
Okay.
next Wednesday, and I
Okay.
will share that with this group
Okay.
once it's completed.
and
So it might differ somewhat from what Jim put out,
okay.
but they are.
I know they worked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
have
only have one
communicated.
source of numbers, but okay.
And I think the goal is never to go below 1 million.
At least our view the start of the table's view is, 1 million. And I said that at the January board meeting, 1 million is, so he says 1.5 and there was 600,000 for the sports courts. So if you call it 1 million, then you'd say we could spend 1 million, and we can decide what that number is. We've never gone below the 1 million. Next year, there's going to be some competition between maintenance sheds and sports courts, because by the end of next year, we'd like to have sports courts done, because now we did splash pad this year, sports courts next year, one major project a year. But again, there'll be some competition for the funds. So,
And I think and I'll be the unpopular person in the room now. The challenge that we're also going to have on the board is that capital fund is used for areas where we bluntly have a shortfall in reserves for projects that come up. Lakeside Playground's one of them. We know that some of the things where we have reserved, we're likely going to want to do as a board more of a project than what's reserved. So then we run into it's once again, it's a horse trading game. Is this something that, hey, we're going to scale back on a reserve project to try to keep it within the reserve amount? Or do we look at pulling forward and saying, hey, we're going to try to enhance the area a little bit more, or bring a new, even if it's the same amenity, plussing that amenity a little bit for the community to what is perceived as a existing asset in the community. And it's not a fun conversation to have, but it's kind of the reality that we sit within sometimes, if I'm understanding that.
and I think it's well said. I'll just try to say it the same way, maybe a little different. So we already have existing resources. We need to maintain them. Different discussion, a different day, like with this building, was it properly reserved? Because if it was properly reserved after 30 years, you wouldn't have needed to. Sure. That's a different discussion. Same thing with, playgrounds, etc. Mm-hmm. So if they're not properly reserved, which some are, and you need to maintain, before you build something new, we want to make sure we're properly maintaining what we have, right? On the flip side, at some point, if you don't invest in new projects, right, the community, so great, so you got to balance that off versus, okay, then you need either more revenue or less expense somewhere else.
Yep.
And that's what you all get paid to kind of manage. Yes.
If I recall, the referendum was sent out to basically ask people to pay for when they sold their home with this additional amount. So it's indicated for capital funds.
Yes.
So you're suggesting that's not really what was done. You're going to take that and move it to reserve because
No.
It's
So
like for the playground, Lakeside Playground's a perfect example. So if we replace like for like, it would be fully a reserve project. But what we've discussed, so we took it to the rec committee and said, here's what we get for like replacement. The comment was, that's not really what we want anymore. That doesn't meet the celebration standard anymore. We would like for like plus. Anything above like for like needs to be capital funding because you're enhancing the existing amenity. So you would use reserve funds for the base amount, and then any plus of it would be a capital.
So that was one of the items that was listed as one on the survey as priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. You're basically now adding things as you come along to things that these are now priorities, which is not what the community did a survey on. And it's also contrary to the use of the capital funds.
we can agree to disagree there. I think
Well, it was sold that way. It was not only sold that way, and when it was put on the referendum, it was sold that way in many posts. It was on in the newsletter that goes out.
So anyway, so
But I think that's more of a board meeting.
Yeah.
not
yeah,
a
okay,
master planning committee
so
meeting.
it's
So I just want to make sure it's said. I'm sure
some of us have,
considered.
that's a conversation with those guys. We're and that's not much more how it wasn't. I understand your point. Now, having said that, we're going to keep the one thing this group has to do is be the advocate for a strategic plan, because prior to the splash pad, we hadn't had a new project in 7 years for a community of this size. So we're going to be the advocate and yell loud to do new projects and to ensure that the money that's being collected is used. And if it has to be reallocated somewhere else, we're just going to yell, take the money that was collected for the capital fund and spend it for long-term projects. And if you have issues other places, that's up to you to go manage. We're just gonna advocate for our projects because if we don't, nobody will, right? Because that's the purpose of this group.
Good point.
Okay. I will open the meeting up for any discussion of any topics that were not discussed today that members of the master planning group or board would like to bring up. And then
Just one quick thing on that maintenance shed thing. Even if we start today, get the program elements, blah, blah, blah. Figure out locations, figure out if there's rights to be able to use it for that. There's so much process involved that will stretch quite a ways. And then obviously hire a design team to design the thing.
Yeah.
But that process of getting the right use through the county, whoever, all the entities, figure out which properties get programmed, et cetera. You're well into next year anyway, so it's something that's gonna
by
be
definition,
out there further than what we could do with the.
and
courts.
then and then wherever you decide to put this, unless it's in a faraway place where nobody sees it. Okay, there's gonna be some community discussion, I would imagine.
With the multi-purpose courts, we already had Lot B. We told them Lot B.
No, no,
already,
okay,
right?
yeah,
No, I know, I'm just saying like for maintenance shed,
No, yeah.
we
okay,
would
so
have to
make it
figure
just-
it out.
No,
Yeah, I wouldn't go there. It'd be,
Yeah.
No.
I think you could fit it at the end of the personally. It's just what the setback is off the tree line.
yeah.
So at the very end of it, closer to CDD is figure out where their property ends and their biomass. And shove something up.
Shove it
against
in the corner,
Yeah.
deep in the corner.
And if we did it right, it seems like we could share whatever dry pilot stuff that they have at the end there and try to make something make sense.
There was something originally
Picture of
designed
that.
like 3 or 4 years ago of a shared space out there that I can send you.
Yeah.
A pile? Pile, shared pile.
It's a little bit different.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
modifying the driveway and the fencing out there. It's-
Yeah, and then,
Got it.
yeah, exactly. So I think there's a possibility of definitely doing something there, but we do need to program what your real needs are.
Yeah.
And then the main thing is where you put all these trucks. That are obviously stretched out and then, do find a place in Island Village that's separate, especially for storage. But at least having bathrooms and whatever else in a central location and the workshop there. The DM.
Yeah.
And like even for the splash pad, we knew the location too, right?
Yeah.
Before we designed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff was
Like the
obvious. This is a little bit more difficult.
This one is because it doesn't have a home.
This is
Okay,
a
so,
lot more processed.
Yeah.
just to summarize what we discussed today, right? The RFP is gonna be done in the next few weeks. We're gonna go to a July core board and get it out by the end of July. Jim is gonna take the lead, working with Mark and anybody else on maintenance sheds, project plans, working with Lauren. At the next meeting, Catherine and Alec are gonna come back and talk about baseball and where that stands. And for Lot D, Community Center, right, we should form a working group on that. Who besides me would like to be in that group? Okay, good.
Yeah.
There we go. 3, 4 is. I'm gonna say, because that's complicated, it's super important, and it's super complicated, just because of,
There's tons of moving pieces and
Tons of
there's
moving pieces.
lots of competing wants.
but when you're all said and done, it's gonna be financing,
That's the financing.
Yeah.
because you can make it small, medium, or large,
Still can't
okay?
pay for it.
Yeah, still can't pay for it.
Right, so.
You pay for it,
Doesn't
and it was, okay, well then don't do it, okay, so we never, but the residents want it.
We might want to do like another survey even to kind of get a feel for.
Well, here's, you could do a
and
survey,
program.
but I know the answer to a survey. Who wants a community center? All do.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Okay. Well, are you willing to pay $5,000 a household for it? Oh, no. Okay,
You wanna pay more
Okay.
days?
Well, but and again, the argument I make this every time I see anybody, who wants a dog park? Okay, we all want a dog park. Who wants to pay $500,000 for a dog park? If you asked everybody, if you made it a referendum, I'm not sure we would have spent $500,000 for a dog. I don't think you'd spend money on anything if you ask people, because unless they participated, they won't want to do it, right? And that's why that's why you have to, balance everything. All right, with that, yes, sir.
One thing, excuse me, one thing on Lot D,
Yes.
and financing is the answer there, you know that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
know it, yeah.
It's no way around it.
Yep, it's debt, 30-year debt.
Yeah, but one thing you should think about is the situation we put we're gonna do something on Lot D and the courts there and everything else, the soccer fields. There was a partnership that was, some of you remember, with the county that was contemplated. And I think it was $4 million that they were going to make available. They have a master plan, and on the west side of the county, they don't have any amenities for the community. And they would like to kind of solve that problem, but they don't know how to solve it. They don't have the land and all that. If you were to entertain it, they would probably come forward with some money for that particular facility, which then would require access to all residents that wanted, then could be covered by, and that's a bad thing, but
It's a bad thing, but
it can be
Well, the
covered,
library's there.
it can be covered by, I think Lauren's got some experience with this, it can be covered by a fee that is reasonable for it, that people outside the community would have to pay.
Yeah.
I would say it'd be a distance center for them to attend, but I think you said at one point Reunion have something like that.
So in Reunion, all of their amenities are CBD owned, residents of Reunion can utilize them. Free non-residents of Reunion, but that live in the area can utilize them.
You will never get that.
And from what I remember in talking to
80% of it.
CBD over the last
So you'll
couple of
never
years,
get to
it can be up to
Because-
the highest dues paid in celebration.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we talked
For a
about that
year?
at one point with it, that we could just simply make that
I
difficult.
think given the
Yeah.
hurdle that we're gonna have with
Yeah.
financing there, I think that's something you've got to consider, have on the table.
Well, it'd be an option. Yeah.
Sooner rather than later.
We could look into it that way. We're at least doing our due diligence and put it out there and see what kind of feedback we get too from
Yeah.
residents.
Either way, if you're doing financing, you have to put it to a community vote. So if you're doing financing, it's option A or option, you could put that in that community.
Yeah,
vote.
that's the way it goes down.
He doesn't have to. put it.
Pick your
I would-
poison.
Look in that direction. I mean, the hospital's there, the library's there, and like the soccer
there's-
field,
there's a
but
bug.
everybody is.
Yeah.
Just saying,
Government and
Right.
the vibe is already,
That way.
a lot of non-residents
Yeah.
use
Try to use
that.
their financing and make it accrue, I think.
That, yeah.
And it has to be.
Okay, all right. Anything else? Thank you for those attending for the community and thanks, Mike. and others. All right, thanks, adjourned.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Yep.